Hello YouTube, Dave here again, back with another WWE replica belt related video, and this one is going to be an interesting one. So I'm going to be taking my Scratch logo Big Eagle WWE Championship belt, and I'm going to be fixing an issue that the belt sort of developed. Now, I originally had an intro recorded for this video, which I thought I transferred over to my computer. Turns out I didn't, so when I deleted it off of my phone that I used to record these things, it was sort of gone forever. So some of the work has already been done, but basically what it was a lot of the black paint. And when I say paint, I use the term very loosely. Because with these mass-produced replicas, especially the shop ones, they use sort of I don't know if it's like a resin or exactly what it is, but basically it's like a plastic that goes on and goes on in like that gets heated and just sort of sinks onto the belt. I don't know exactly how they do it, but it's not actual paint that they use like the professional belt makers would. It's a type of plastic, and the black paint, again, air quotes, on this belt was forming a lot of cracks. So I actually do have a picture that I took that I did manage to transfer or was actually on my computer, and I did not delete it off my phone right away. So I'm going to insert that here, so hopefully you can get an idea of what it is that I'm talking about. So yeah, so basically, like I said, the black plastic had sort of formed these like cracking patterns pretty much all over the belt. It was most noticeable on the champion banner, where it's pretty prolifically, spread throughout the entire thing. But I actually also noticed it on the other areas of black paint with the Scratch logo, as well as the painted in areas that are meant to represent the cutout sidebars for the championship plate. So I wanted to essentially remove that plastic and repaint all of those areas myself, because I actually enjoyed doing the painting process on the Undisputed Championship that I have, and I did learn a couple of things from it. So this is going to be a multi-day process. And the first part was just simply removing the paint off of it. So that was something that I actually already did here. To explain the process, what it was is I actually reached out on the Facebook group Belt Addicts Anonymous. It's a really great Facebook group for individuals that are into replica belt collecting, and there's a lot of great people over there. And I posted the question, how to remove the paint from WWE shop replicas, because it was cracking and I wanted to redo it with like actual legitimate paint for a couple of different reasons. And Stephen Hammer actually responded to the comment. And if you don't know who he is, he has a fantastic YouTube channel where he does like replica belt reviews, and he's done some videos talking about modifying some championship belts. He's a fantastic member of the belt collecting community, just a straight up great person, very helpful, very knowledgeable. So he came through big time for me here. Basically, because it's a plastic that sort of goes on to the plate, paint remover won't really do the trick. So what he recommended was using a heat gun and an X-Acto knife. So you use the heat gun to make the plastic pliable, and then you use the X-Acto knife to sort of like lift the actual plastic off, and then I just used a pair of tweezers to sort of pull at the stuff to remove it here. So that part's already been done. Went to my in-laws, my wife's parents, and my father-in-law has had a heat gun and all the stuff there. So I recorded bits and pieces of the process of sort of heating up and removing the plastic, sort of showing you how it looks when it's coming off, and sort of the work that went into that. I will say I did not have a tripod when I was doing this, so I was recording it piece by piece by just picking up my phone, holding it over the belt as I tried to do my work with it. The plate was obviously removed, which we'll see here in a second as well, but it was difficult to get everything proper, so I apologize that it might be, not the cleanest footage. You'll see the aspect ratio kind of got messed up because there was a couple of times where it didn't flip to 16:9, and it stayed 9 by 16, which was frustrating, but I wasn't paying attention. And there's even a couple of points where you can see the tops of my fingers making their way into the camera's field of view. So nothing but the highest quality video filmography or video, capturing there. But regardless, hopefully, you'll enjoy the process here. I tried to capture as much of it as I could. And yeah, so we'll take a look at that now, and then we'll get to the next step, the fun step of actually fixing the paint. So here we are about part way through, just using the heat gun here to heat up the plastic. That's the plastic that I've gotten off of it so far. And yeah, so I'm just going to see if I can get it to lift up just a little bit here so you can kind of... So you can kind of see that it lifts. This part hasn't been heated up too much yet, so this is probably gonna rip, but we'll see what we can get so far. You can see it actually caught the part in between the parts of the side of the P. Again, this part hasn't been warmed up as much, so just like I said, a little bit of progress there, and we'll take a look once I've got all the paint off that I want to remove. Okay, it's gonna need a little more heat. It's going to need some more heat. And there we go. So that is the champion banner. All that's left are the two sidebars here. I think I'm actually going to redo this as well. Just replace basically all the black paint except for the lettering. The lettering there seems to be fine. A little bit of a scratch, but that's going to get covered up by the paint, so it should be good. can see there are actually already scratches on it before the paint, because I definitely didn't do that. And the red paint's fine. It's satisfying, as the kids would say these days. Also, this plate is getting incredibly hot to the touch. This is where it sucks being a lefty, because naturally my hand wants to rest. It's probably going to require some more heat, so we'll do that, and we'll be back. There a little bit, that's fine. So you can definitely tell it's not paint that they use. Okay, there's that part. Alright, almost there. I think I'm going to leave the little two spots there inside the W. I don't think I need to bother with that. just catch just a little bit in there. All right, almost done. We'll be back. Come on, one piece. Perfect. Again, you can see how scratched these actually are underneath. It's interesting because like I definitely didn't do. I did a little bit up top here, but that was about it. So we got that one, just 2 more to go, and that is also all done. Like I said, I'm going to leave the little spots inside the W because that's not hurting anything. Almost there. Get my hairy mitts out of the way. Come on, one go, one go, one go, one go. And there we go. So that is all the black paint off I'm going to take. Like I said, the lettering is fine. I'm not worried about the lettering. I'm not worried about the little dots up there, but everything else was kind of really cracking and not handling well. So that is the paint off. The next step will be to repaint it. So that is the paint off of it there. Kind of what it looks like all piled up. Like you said, you can see it is clearly not paint. It is definitely the plastic. I think they put it in as liquid and it solidifies, but it's definitely not paint. And yeah, and to help me through that, just a Sleeman's Honey Brown Lager. Not bad. So once again, we are back, and here we have the center plate on the Big Eagle Scratch Logo WWE Championship belt. And I actually got to say, I kind of like a lot of the way that it looks without the paint on it. The WWE banner there up at the top, or the emblem, actually kind of reminds me of the old school like Intercontinental and like the Winged Eagle ones. Now I'm going to be painting them back in. But it actually kind of looks cool. I toyed with the idea of not doing that and just leaving it gold. But no, I'm gonna paint it black here. I also am hoping to paint the Scratch logo white here. So this is the belt. What we're going to be doing is now again, this is going to have to be done in steps because one thing that I learned when doing the Undisputed title is that the paint takes a while to dry and it can be really easy to kind of mess things up if you're not really paying attention to what you're doing, or if you're just simply trying to do too much. So what we're going to be looking at doing here, and it's also going to be difficult to do this on camera just because of how awkward it is to reach around the tripod to do these things. So I'm going to do the best that I can to give you an idea of how everything's going to work. And then I'll just show some updated progress clips as we sort of go through. We're also going to be going back to my wife's parents, so I will probably be recording some of this there as well, because like I said, it's going to take a few days to get everything done properly. I'm not going to rush it. I'm going to take my time, let stuff dry properly, cure before I mess with anything. But yeah, for now, like I said, we're going to just sort of go through it here. So what we have, the tools of the trade for this next process, we do have some isopropyl alcohol, which we're going to be using to clean the areas that we're going to paint. We have some Q-tips, so we're going to use one end for the liquid, and then we're going to use one end to help sort of the drying process. And for the actual painting itself, we've got some Testors paint here. So what I have is the first one here. This is one that I've already been using with the Undisputed Championship. This is the Testors Enamel Glossy Black Paint. So just a second here. So yeah, so you see it kind of difficult to get it to focus here with the glare. But yeah, so glossy black. So that's going to be the main thing that we're going to be using on the champion banner as well as the WWE logo. But I also have, let's just see here. So this is just another full unopened bottle of the glossy black. So we're just going to set that down, help keep the newspaper in place. I do have a piece of foam underneath of the center plate to keep it from wobbling because it does have the legs that the screws go into. But also I've got some semi-gloss black Testors paint. And I'm going to use the semi-gloss in the areas where where it's supposed to mimic the idea of the sidebars being cut out. The actual scratch logo version of the Big Eagle belt didn't have the sidebars cut out the way that the block logo did, because that was a point of failure and a weak point, and it had snapped off because you had Austin as the champion, and he was not gentle with those belts. So with the Deadly Games tournament, and from that point on, all of the scratch logo Big Eagle belts actually had the areas where the sidebars were, they were recessed, but they were just painted to make it look like they were cut out. So they were painted the same color as the strap. And it's something that it worked really, really well because if you looked on television with standard definition cameras, CRTs, you could not tell that it was painted and not cut out the way that everything was sort of secured to the leather strap itself. But I feel that a semi-gloss might be a little bit better than an actual glossy paint, because you don't want that section to stand out as much when it comes to being this sort of shiny painted section there. So I'm going to try the semi-gloss and see how that goes. And we're going to be doing those, the sidebars in today's video here. I also picked up, and I was hoping to get just a pure white. Unfortunately, they didn't seem to have one. But I also kind of want to paint the scratch logo white. So the closest thing that they had was this light ivory, which is sort of it's a bit of an off-white. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try it out and just because I do have the actual flyers here set down. So I'm just going to put some of it on a black section and just see how white it looks. If it looks good, then I will probably actually paint I'll actually probably paint the scratch logo. Like I said, I was hoping to find just a white, but they did not have it there. This was the closest that I could find. We'll see how it goes, and even if it's not quite 100%, I still might do it just to have the painted logo, but we'll see. Well, time will tell sort of how that goes. So, and to actually apply the paint, we've got toothpicks. Now, I know this might seem weird, but professional belt makers, a lot of them, this is what they'll use. You just sort of dab the point of the toothpick into the paint, and you can use it to spread the paint a nice thin layer over the portion that you're trying to paint here. It's also going to fit into all of these smaller areas as well, where you've got the lettering, which is great because you kind of want those to be painted in, and this fits in really, really well. So what I'll likely do is just have some paint out here that I'll, sort of make sure there's a little bit extra, and then I'll use it to fill in these spots here. So yeah, that's something that I am looking forward to. So the banner is going to have to be done all in one go, but the inside of the lettering, where the banners are, so inside of the A and inside of the P and inside of the O, I'm probably going to do those today as well, because none of it's going to interfere with the rest of the stuff that we've got here. So let's start the process. Like I said, the first thing that we have to do is clean where we are going to be applying the paint. You don't want to have oil from fingerprints or anything like that in there. So we got this fresh bottle of isopropyl alcohol that we are going to open up here. All right, just get the chair a little bit closer as best I can. Again, it's going to be kind of awkward to do this on camera, so I'm hoping that this picks up all right. So we're just going to dip in here, wipe off the excess, and we're just going to clean the inside areas here where we're going to be applying the paint. And we're just going to take our, I apologize in advance. I don't know if the camera's actually picking up how squeaky that is. Oof, that is. I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of person that some of these things, like I can feel, like these certain noises, I just feel them reverberating like in behind my eye, and it just bugs the crap out of me. So we got that one there. We'll also clean the other side because we're doing the sidebars for sure today. Once again, apologies. It will evaporate away as well, but I just want to speed up that process as much as I can. We're also going to do inside of the A. I know I'm going to be doing that for sure. Inside of the P. And inside of the O. All right, so that should be nice and clean there. So let's start with, oh, that was our spare bottle. So let's start with the inside. No, let's start with the sidebars. We'll do these in the order that we actually cleaned them off, just to make things a little bit easier. Like I said, I kind of wish I had recorded the process of fixing the paint on the actual, when I was doing my Undisputed title. Just gonna shake up the stuff here, make sure nothing's sitting, everything's nice and properly mixed. So this is the semi-gloss. So this shouldn't be quite as shiny as the actual, the glossy paint that we're gonna be using on other locations here. So we're just gonna, like I said, move some of the stuff out of the way. Again, this is going to be very awkward, so I don't know how much of this I'm going to be able to actually get on camera. But this is basically the process. You just dip into the paint, and then you use the toothpick to spread the paint. And we basically want a pretty thin layer overall, because one of the things that the plastic does that the paint fixes is the plastic, when you use it, it's so thick, the way that it goes on, that it makes the etching feel very shallow. On the belt. So where the lettering is, like all of that, like if you're running your finger over the lettering, where it was done with the plastic, it was almost, the black paint was almost flush with the lettering. There was like no distinction whatsoever with the, between the background of the banner. And it's kind of a slow process, so you gotta be, there we go. You gotta be patient with this. But I do find it nice and relaxing. I'm just gonna move that a little bit closer. This is where being a lefty also kind of is a little bit harrowing. This is basically what I did with my Undisputed Championship, and I had a great time doing it. And I will say there is an inherent satisfaction with kind of like putting your own touch on these things. Now, another thing that we should accomplish with this paint especially with the sidebars, is you'll hopefully get a bit more of a sense that there's depth to it. Because one of the things that's created the illusion that the sidebars were cut out on the actual championship belt was the fact that you could kind of see what looked like the edges, and it was just now I think with the replica, where the cutout sections are, I don't think they're as deep as they were on the real belt. Like, I don't think the real belt, they were particularly thick, but it was just one piece so that the belts wouldn't have issues breaking. Again, this is really awkward with the tripod in the way here. The other thing that the toothpick accomplishes is it doesn't leave brush marks. Which is another reason why a lot of the professional belt makers, this is the method that they'll use. And if the paint does sort of go up onto like the plate itself where it's not supposed to, that's pretty easy to fix. Once everything dries and cures, you can just give it a you can basically scratch the paint right off. And just use your fingernail, thumbnail. You could use the toothpick, and it will just come right off. So if it gets onto the plate, it's not a big deal. So that was the bottom section there, and I think that looks pretty good. It's still going to need to, like I said, to dry and everything. So we're not going to mess with that too much. But what we are going to do is spin you around a little, and we're going to do the upper portion there, and then I think what I'm going to do is get the camera out of the way, do a little bit more, and then I will come back with the final results. So again, you just spread it out. If it does end up going up on the sides, again, it doesn't matter, it doesn't bother me. For the most part, you're going to be looking at this front on. Right, making some good progress here. And like so, one of the things that you will notice, even if it's not as visually noticeable, but you will feel the difference in terms of like how deep the etching is. So like with the lettering, for example, like I said, the plastic had it feeling almost completely flush with the lettering. The paint was almost indistinguishable by feel. But once I took the plastic off and just ran my finger, like you can actually feel how nice and like sharp edged the lettering really is. And that's something that I want the actual, that's something that the paint does such a better job of conveying than the plastic. Like one of the things I noticed right off the bat with my Undisputed championship, once I started doing the paint replacement on that was just how much better it felt. All right, let's just wipe that off. Okay, so that is the first portion that we've got there. So again, it's still wet, obviously, needs to dry, but I think it looks pretty dang good. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side, and I'm going to fill in, like I said, the area where the A was, where the P was, and where the O was. I'm going to have to do the actual champion banner separate, and I'm going to see how this looks as well. Because if this looks okay enough, then I will be painting the Scratch logo with this sort of like light ivory color, and I will have to let that dry completely before I do the painting up here. If this doesn't look great, or I decide not to bother with it, then I will paint the black portion. I might also consider leaving it unpainted for now, just in case I do find the actual white, because I do kind of want to paint the Scratch logo. But worst case scenario, I can just paint the Scratch logo, and if any white gets onto the background, then I can also just easily just, you know, touch up with the black paint. So yeah, so looking good so far. Like I said, I will be back to show you the progress that I was able to make with the rest of the stuff here. So the other two sidebars, I think I actually touched part of this when I was picking up the plate, so I'm gonna have to redo that with the alcohol. I'm just gonna redo inside of the A, P, and O to make sure that you know, they're looking good as well. So yeah, I will be right back, and I'll show you the progress to date. So here's what we have so far. I've done the sidebars as well as the areas inside of the lettering. I decided to also do the little gaps in between the portions of the lettering as well. So that should hopefully, it looks pretty messy right now, but that will clean up pretty nicely once it's all done. The important thing is just to get the paint inside of the gaps. And that, like I said, you can clean that up easily enough once everything is nice and dry. But here we have, like I said, the sidebars. The semi-gloss paint is a little bit thinner, so on certain lighting conditions, I don't know if it's going to show up here or not, but in certain lighting conditions, it does look a little bit transparent. Now that might also change as everything cures as well. Worst case scenario, I will just do a second coat on them, but I don't think it's too bad. In normal lighting, it's definitely not that noticeable, but when I had my the light on my phone shining on it, it was a bit more noticeable there, but we still got everything done. So it was the semi-gloss inside of the sidebars, and for the lettering, it is the glossy paint, because that's what we're going to be using for everything else. I did take a look at the ivory, the light ivory, and it's just a little too yellowish. Once I opened it up, it's like, yeah, that doesn't look good at all. So I decided against using it. So it will still be the gold Scratch logo. It won't be painted. It's something I might do in the future if I can find like the proper white paint. But for now, I don't want to mess with anything else because the thing I learned with the Undisputed is it's really easy, especially as a lefty, to accidentally get your hand into the paint and mess it all up. So we're going to leave everything as is, let it dry nice and good. And I'll be taking this back with me to my in-laws, my wife's parents' place, and I will be doing the update there. So I think this is going to actually end it for the first video. This was kind of a long one because I wanted to show the process of peeling the paint off, and I wanted to show a really good look at what you do to actually apply the paint using the toothpick method, which again is the one that I'd recommend because it doesn't leave any brush marks. You don't have to worry about any of that. It just takes a little extra time, but it reflects better in the finished product. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments below for any of you that may be belt collectors or maybe looking to get into belt collecting. Have you modified any of your belts? Have you had to repaint anything? Or have you wanted to repaint stuff and not known the process? Again, a big thank you to Stephen Hammer. Check out his channel. It's just under the name Stephen Hammer. I can't thank him enough for his advice, because without that, this would have been a lot more difficult to do. So I really appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to showing you the final results in the next video. So the next video will just be the finished product. And this was just the process. Like I said, a little bit of a longer one, but I wanted to show as much of it as I could so that hopefully it won't feel overwhelming for anyone that wants to do this themselves. Because like I said, it's actually a lot of fun to do, and it's kind of rewarding to take a look at something that you've done and, be able to say, like, I actually, I did that, and, these are expensive replicas. You want them to look a certain way. And if they don't feel like you can't fix that yourself, because if I can do it, then anyone else absolutely can do it much better. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Until then, take care.